Hey guys, welcome. This video is to show you what it will look like to round a number to the nearest tens place. First, we're going to start out easy with a 2-digit number. I'm going to start by underlining whatever place I'm rounding to. Here I'm rounding to the tens place, so I'm going to count over from the ones, tens. I'm underlining this number so I know exactly which number will be changing. Next, we're going to circle the 8, or I like to call it spotlighting, because the main attention is going to be on the circled number, because he is bossy and is going to tell this number what to do. I always like to draw an arrow because it reminds me that this number is telling this one to either stay a 7 or bump up to an 8. The two tens that this is closest to, 78, it falls in between 70 or 80. So when we round it, it's going to be either one of these numbers because this is the number it falls between. We are going to think for a second about our rhyme. This circled number, if it is 4 or less, we let the 7 rest. If it's 5 or above, we're going to give the 7 a shove. This circled number is an 8. Is that 4 or less or 5 or above? If you said 5 and above, you're correct. So this 8 is telling the 7 to bump up to an 8. And then this circled number, it's circled, so you know what it's going to become? What does that look like? A 0. That's right. It's going to become a 0. So it rounds up to 80 because this 8 over here told the 7 to bump up. 78 is closer to 80 than to 70. So that is how we round to the tens with a 2-digit number. Now, if we want to come down here and try a 3-digit number, it's going to look like this. Same idea. We are going to do exactly the same thing, but now we just have this 3rd digit over here in the hundreds place. We're going to kind of just ignore him for right now. We're going to focus still on the tens place because we are rounding to the tens here. So I'm going to underline the tens place, which is a 2, spotlight the 4, and the 4 is bossy and tells the 2 what to do. The 4 is going to be like the older sibling who bosses their little brother or sister and tells them what to do. I'm the oldest, so I like to always tell my younger brothers what to do. Here, we're going to see what the 4 tells the 2 to do. Stay a 2 or bump up to a 3. Well, the 4 is either 4 or less or 5 or above. Which is it? Is this 4 or less? We're going to let the 2 rest. If this number is 5 or above, we're going to give it a shove. Which one is it? If you said 4 or less, you are correct. This is 4, so it's 4 or less. We're going to let the 2 rest, which means we're going to leave it the same. It's going to stay at 2. The 4 is circled, so it's going to become a 0. And we're just going to drop this 3 straight down because I did not have to bump this number up to the next hundreds. So this 3 is just going to stay the same. 320 would be our answer. And that is how you round numbers to a 3-digit number, especially in the tens place. Next, we're going to try a 4-digit number. Okay. We have a 2,562. Here we're going to do the same thing. Underline the tens, spotlight the ones. The ones tells the tens what to do. Is the 2 telling the 6 to bump up or stay the same? Is this 4 or less? Are we going to let it rest? Or is this 5 or above and are we going to give the 6 a shove? This is 4 or less, so we're going to let it rest. It's going to stay a 6. The 2 is going to change to a 0 because it has a circle around it. And we're just going to drop the 2 and the 5 straight down because this tens did not round up to the next hundreds. Therefore, it doesn't affect anything over here for this number. Now, I want to show you when I keep saying the hundreds isn't changing here. Most of the time, your hundreds and your thousands places are just going to drop straight down and they're going to stay the same, okay? Really, the only time you need to watch out is if this hundreds place, let's do an example, or if this tens place has a 9 in it, okay? I'm going to show you why. Because if it has a 9 in it, as we all know, 9 is the highest digit. We've already gone over our digits. They're 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So because this is a 9, if this number tells it to bump up, there is no other digit for it to bump up to. The next number after 9 is 10. But I cannot put a 10 in the tens place. It just can't happen because it's a 2-digit number. So what happens is this 7 is telling this 9 to bump up because this is 5 or above, so it's going to give the 9 a shove. Well, after 90, what comes after 90? 100. So the next 100 we're going to have to bump up to is actually 800. So this is like one of those rare cases where this 9 is going to bump this up to the next number, because this number can't bump any higher, so he actually bumps up this number to the next number, and he becomes a 0, just like 10, okay? So it's like saying 79 is bumping up 1 to 80. That's basically what we're doing here. So the only time you need to worry about this is if there's a 9 in the place that you're rounding to, but most of the time you're going to have numbers like this where the 2 and the 5 would just drop straight down and not change, because this underlined digit is a 6. So I really don't have to worry about that too much unless this is a 9 and if it gets bumped up. If we had a number like this, like 793, well, I wouldn't even have to worry about it here because the 3 is 4 or less. So we're just going to let the 9 rest, and then we're going to change this to a 0 and drop down the 7. Okay, so 790. Do you see how this one rounded down to this 10? And the next 10 after 790 is 800. So that's why this would round to 800. If I'm counting by tens, 770, 780, 790, the next 10 is 800, because 790 plus 10 is 800. So that's the next 10. That's why it would bump this next up to the next 100, okay? So typically, you don't need to worry about that, but sometimes you do, okay? Let's do one more together just to make sure you got it. We'll try a 4-digit one. We'll make it a little bit of a hard one, okay? We've got 9,465. All right, really the only two places we need to worry about here, we're still rounding to the tens, is underlining the tens and spotlighting the ones. This ones is a 5. Is that 4 or less or 5 or above? 5 or above, give it a shove. So we're going to give the 6 a shove up to a 7. And this is going to change into a 0. Then we're going to drop the 9 and the 4 straight down to get 9,470. That is the closest tens for this number to round to. I hope this video helped explain some things to you and maybe helped show some light and make some things more clear to understand. If you have any questions, you can always contact me and I'd be more than happy to help you. Thanks, guys.